Thank you so much. How are you today? Good. It is so awesome to be here at Paul Quinn College, one of my favorite places in the DFW Metroplex. And I am blessed to be here with these brilliant individuals to have a conversation about equity opportunities that exist within Fintech. I'm glad, thank you Samaji for that introduction, that definition of what Fintech is. We're gonna dive a little bit deeper in that, hopefully to strengthen your understanding about some of the opportunities that exist in Fintech, talk about some barriers that exist in the industry as it's growing, maybe places where you can get plugged in and involved, and then we will end with Q&A. Yeah? No, we will not end with, we will have no Q&A. My name is Michelle Williams. I am the Executive Director of Fintech in Action. And one thing about me is I despise bios with all of my heart and soul. So I do not read them during panels. What I do ask for my panelists to do is introduce themselves, tell us about what you're currently doing and maybe something that you're excited about. And once we get through that, we will start with the questions. So we'll start with Jessica.
Hello, my name is Jessica Barnes. I am currently a computer science student at the University of Texas at Dallas. So in the past 2 summers, I have worked with Peak 6 and Fintech in Action as a Fintech, as a Fintech intern, as well as a trading associate intern. I'm really excited for the future. Hello. Okay. Yeah. I'm really excited for the future that I have in Fintech, especially just learning about new skills and new developments that I can bring to the table.
Thank you, Jessica.
Hi, my name is Joseph Akintolayo. I'm the founder of Deposits. We're a no-code, low-code banking as a service solution. Essentially, we exist to bring financial innovation and inclusion closer to communities by tearing down the technical barriers so that we can tear down the financial barriers. I am lucky to be a partner at Social Venture Partners Dallas and have gone through the Dana Jewett residency, so I want to mention that. And I'll go ahead and hand it over to my colleague over here.
Hi. Hello.
I'll hand it over.
Hi. Hi, I'm Selom Tetteh. I work for Apex Fintech Solutions. It's a Dallas-based fintech firm. We are responsible for working with, if you think about introducing brokers, platforms that like Webull and Stash and Robinhood. We work and present middle office solutions to them that allow everyday investors to open accounts, to trade, and begin to invest in the stock market. I've been with Apex for 5.5 years. Most of my career has been split between management consulting in Deloitte and E&Y, and then on Wall Street with Barclays and Goldman Sachs before joining Apex. So I'm glad to be part of this panel and share with you what my experiences are and why fintech is disrupting the world.
All right. Can you hear me?
Uh-oh.
Hi, my name is R.L. Prasad, and given that the topic is today is fintech, Michelle must have thought there are 3 stalwarts in fintech. Let me throw in this traditional banker for comic relief. Right, so, I work in Santander Bank, which is a 170-year-old Spanish bank. We've been in Dallas now for about 15, 20 years. My role in the company is I'm the chief risk officer for the auto finance business for the US. We are headquartered, the auto finance division is headquartered in Dallas. I moved here 18 months ago and I'm loving every day here.
Thank you so much. Emily, should we check the mics again? Yeah, can you just...
Hello? Hello?
Are we good? Can y'all hear the mics in the back? Can you just say test?
Hello?
Yeah, Joseph, can you actually speak in the mic and see?
Yeah, it's not a little.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Awesome. So the first question that I have, I'm actually going to pose to Joseph, and then Selom, I'm going to ask for some backup here. Can you define fintech? I know that we heard a little definition, but can we get a robust understanding of what fintech is?
I told you not to set me up like this. I'd like to define it by jobs to be done. Financial services is essential. It's our currency. It's how things get done, literally. And its impacts can't be understated. It's essential. The goals of technology broadly, especially the kind that I subscribe to, are all about the extension of a certain kind of justice in the form of democracy. Let it be fair. Let it be fast. Let it be easy. Fintech hopes to take things that used to be difficult, clunky, complex, create, inexact results, right? And turn them into solutions that can create repeatable benefits broadly in the market. And so how people have interacted with fintech, right, is by saving time, not having to go to the bank all the time to get a transaction done, being able to get a mortgage online, right? And so bringing things closer to the consumer and also easing the burden on processing. And so fintech has created tremendous value just from a marketplace standpoint, but also from a human standpoint.
Thank you. Perfect. Selom, so Apex Fintech Solutions is based here in Dallas, a firm probably a lot of people have never heard of, but as you mentioned, is the back end for a lot of retail apps. Can you talk a little bit about how Apex specifically is working towards democratizing finance?
So Apex is one of Apex's mission and vision is really to democratize investments for the everyday person. And what that means is if you think back, 20 years ago, if anybody wanted to invest in the stock market, there are two things. We have to actually physically walk into an investment broker's office, whether it's a Fidelity or TD, walk into their office, fill out paperwork manually, and then wait 2 weeks, 3 weeks for them to complete a background check, make sure that you have enough money to buy a stock of Apple at $2,000 or whatever it was before you could actually begin to trade. What Apex has introduced into the market in the last 20 years is really allowing people to seamlessly bypass these manual processes. So as Joseph talked about, we've presented technology to introducing brokers or broker dealers that traditionally would have to collect manual paperwork, go through this innate process of onboarding, what we call onboarding an individual, and make that very seamless to the everyday person. Now, through Apex's technology, you can open an account, you can fund your account, and begin trading in under 5 minutes. If you think about what that has done in the last 10, 15 years, it's allowed people, I don't know if you've heard of Robinhood, Webull, to really democratize and allow everyday investors to now have access to the stock market. Additionally, what we've done is we've broken down what were traditionally barriers of entry for the lay person, which is to buy stock, you have to buy whole shares of stock, which could be costly. We've put in technology that allows you now to buy fractions of a stock where you can actually participate in the market without having $2,000. If you have $5, you can actually invest and buy a portion of Apple or Facebook. And as that grows, your portion grows. As your investment grows with them, you can then sell it and market it. So we've looked at democratizing investment, not just even in the US. Part of my role is democratizing investments globally. So my task is going across the world, identifying people in different countries and making sure that they have reach into the US markets, whether it's from Brazil, India, or other countries that are interested in participating in the US market.
Thank you, Selom. RL, so you mentioned that you were just an addition. That's not true. We often don't think about traditional banks as fintech companies, but quite frankly, they're currently is not a bank, not a successful one, that's not using technology to transact with their clients and consumers. So can you share about some things that you're excited that Santander is doing specifically in that innovation space?
Yeah, sure. And thanks for pointing it out. Like all banks have had technology in the back end, right? I mean, for years now, for decades. So the finance world has had technology. That's the way I see fintech. But where fintech actually took wings, I would say, in the last 20 years or so, is when it came into the front end of the customer-facing area, right? That's when the digital capabilities came out and it starts interacting with consumers like you and I. That's when fintech actually started taking off. So the new age fintech, which is what these guys here represent, I think traditional banks like us have had some of those capabilities, but not necessarily conveniencing customers. But in Santander, now, of late, in the last several years, we've started moving forward along. I mean, sometimes you need some of these. I mean, I consider these new age fintechs as catalysts to kind of wake up the sleeping giants, if I may say that. And banks like us, like JP Morgan or any bank for that matter, have actually accelerated some of their digital plans because we have these fintechs coming and kind of nudging us and possibly disrupting in some areas, right? So at Santander, we have a bunch of initiatives. In my auto division, I can talk about one particular initiative that I'm really, really excited about. We call it Drive, where we actually have a customer portal. It's called the Drive portal, where the digital portal that's customer facing, which we will be launching very soon. I think in November, we'll be piloting it. That portal is what it's going to do is put millions of cars that are out there in the lots in front of the customer. So you can go into the portal, you know what your budget is, what your payment capacity is, what you can pay a month. So you can actually go into the portal, log in and see, and actually create a certain requirement for you. Like you can choose a car, and you know what the price of the car is. And if you were to take a 36 or a 48 or a 60-month loan on this, what is the likely monthly payment? All of that. And you can kind of move around and play to see what will fit your budget and how can you kind of structure a deal. And you can actually get a pre-approval in the process. All of this can happen sitting in your couch at home. And once you have chosen and you kind of have a pre-approval, it does not hit a bureau. So you actually get a soft approval. And then you take the approval, go to the dealer, and fulfill the loan there. So the car's earmarked. The dealer knows when you walk in what is the car that you have chosen, what is the payment that you've chosen, and so on and so forth. So that's the kind of capability that we are developing. We're excited. We've seen a few demos of it, and I think this is going to be a really interesting development. And even in the bank, in the branches on the digital space, we're kind of innovating a bunch of things to make consumer interaction with the bank, give consumers multiple choices on how they can interact with the bank, whether it's the branch or in the customer service area. So a bunch of initiatives we're doing there.
Awesome, thank you. So we laid the groundwork of what fintech is and some of the things that are happening really practically within the industry amongst these firms. But I want to pivot a little bit. The title of our conference today is the regenerative economy, and I don't want to get in trouble from Tony if I don't mix in questions that directly tie to our conference today. And so I brought the brilliant Jessica to share as she's navigating this world. She's entering into the industry. She's a junior at UTD, as she mentioned earlier. I wanted her to share a little bit about her journey into this industry because it really ties into some of the pillars that we're looking at, like having access to like social capital and additional information and mentors, things of that nature. So can you tell us a little bit about how you even got here?
Okay. I'm going to start from almost the very beginning. I'm Dallas, born and raised. I went to Townview in the business magnet of all things. So it was very whirlwind for me to actually end up here specifically because I initially went to school for chemistry. Then I changed my major and I went to computer science. From there, I was working with the Greenwood Project, and that is how I not only got my first internship, but I also met Michelle. And we just talked about what fintech is and just getting into the details of just being a fintech intern, what does the space look like? And from there, I got a return offer to be a trading associate intern this summer, and so I was just really excited about that. And so it's been really sort of just completely wild coincidence.
I'm going to ask you a follow-up question. You mentioned the Greenwood Project. Can you explain what that is?
Okay, so the Greenwood Project is specifically dedicated to bringing Black and Latino students into the finance space. So they have sponsors such as JP Morgan Chase, Citadel, Peak Six was once a sponsor as well. And so they're based in Chicago, and what they do is that they have a high school program and a college program, and I was one of the few applicants that was outside of Chicago that actually went ahead and went through the application process and was accepted. And so I went through, I want to say, 2 or 3 different application processes before I started applying to different financial firms. So there was, I believe that I interviewed with OCC as well as Peak Six, but my final choice was to go with Peak Six.
We're glad. I'm glad.
Thank you.
So I want to pivot a little bit and talk about some of the barriers that exist in this industry. Arl mentioned that it's a growing industry that some of the entrepreneurial endeavors are pushing some of the big banks to be a little bit more innovative. But I wanted to bring it to our personal interactions within the industry. And so I'm going to start with actually Selom. Selom, can you tell us a little bit about what barriers currently exist in the corporate world as individuals are trying to get into the fintech industry, given how lucrative it is, how fast it's growing? What barriers exist from an equity standpoint?
So we talked about whether I keep it real or I
keep it real, Selom. Keep it real.
I think the reality, and you can go all the way back to people like Jessica and the environment in which they grow up and what opportunities they get to be in the financial services market. It's not a lot, and there's not a lot of exposure, and why programs like the Greenwood Project exist. If I think about my own background and the organizations that I've been in, you go through these organizations, and there aren't a lot of me represented in senior leadership. And one of the things that we were talking about this, and I was talking to Michelle, is when you think about the last few years where there's been a real wake-up call in corporate America and sensitivity to make sure that there's appropriate diversity and inclusion, organizations that say they are doing it, but when you look at their leadership, there isn't a lot of diversity in the leadership. And I think that still is representative of some organizations in the financial services world. The traditional financial services world is white male at the leadership position. It's not. There's very few women. There's very few blacks. There's very few Latinos and other minorities. And I think what that means is, as they bring people through their respective organizations, it's not that they're specifically excluding them. It's just they're biased in terms of who they bring in. Like you walk in as a white male, you go to a college, and your natural affinity is to be able to talk to another white college student without recognizing that, hey, I haven't really engaged a black, I haven't engaged a woman, I haven't engaged a Latino. And in doing so, you exclude them from having an opportunity in your organization. And I think what firms like Peak Six, Greenwood Project are trying to do is be more conscious about, starting right from the ground up and being deliberate in how you identify people, being deliberate in bringing them into the organization. What I still don't see is, deliberate programs to then grow people who come into the organizations, right, and grow them into leadership positions where there is a diversity in leadership and thought. A lot of organizations are able to bring people in, but they're not able to retain them because two things: they don't allow them to grow within the organization, and there are not enough people of diversity who can mentor them to then grow within the organization, so they end up leaving. And you find out that, yes, you may get diversity at very junior levels, but as you rise in management and leadership, the diversity things out or doesn't exist. So that, to me, is the wake-up call for leadership in organizations in the financial services world, in fintech world. I think fintech being, quote unquote, a younger industry than, no offense, traditional organizations, is more aware and trying to pull in and be more diverse right off the ground, because they start small, and in that small organization you get a diverse pool of resources who then just kind of naturally grow as the fintech grows, right? Versus a traditional organization that, you know, has had years or 20, 50 years of, you know, traditionally not having diversity at the leadership level, now having to force themselves to really think of diversity in a different way.
Thank you, Selom. And that same question for you, Joseph, as an entrepreneur, and you've been navigating this space. What are some of the barriers that you're seeing that exist, both as an entrepreneur and as an entrepreneur who's launching into this specific industry?
I'm gonna be super frank. Okay, all right, it is whack. It sucks, okay? And I'll tell you why. When there's not that many people that look like you, there's just not that many people that look like you.
Yeah.
We're selling into an industry where the power structure, like we need the regulatory umbrella of financial people who have licenses, people regulated by the OCC, FDIC, NCUA, OSIF, and you know, their boards are, you know, I'm gonna borrow a term from one of my friends, Denise, male, pale, and stale. Right, you know, they haven't seen a computer in years, right? Like somebody else reads their emails, and so, but they're somehow going to advance the state of technology, you know. And then it's also just like, who are they used to purchasing from, right? Do they buy from anybody under 40 ever? Do they buy from anybody who is not a white male ever? I've been offered crazy job offers. I didn't even know how much that people could get paid that much in a salary. I've been offered 2 LOIs for acquisition, but like it's harder to get a contract. Like just do business with me. Allow me to be grateful for the business. Fundraising wise, you know, less than 1% of venture capital goes to, it's like now I think it's all minorities and women make about 1.8% of all. So that means over 98% of dollars are avoiding, you know, this particular community. It's not represented evenly. We recently closed a $5 million seed led by ATX Ventures in Austin. We're extending right now for 2.5 if there's any investors in here. And
say it again a little slower.
Yeah, so we're extending our round. We've reopened it to try to raise an additional 2.5. You know, if you need any access, my COO is over there. He can get you access to the data room. And if you'd like to participate, there's already a competition. So, but that being said, minority founders are more capital efficient. Yeah. I have moved the impossible, like as in like the only way that I can go into the rooms that I go into and do the work that I do is because like the quality of the work, right, demands it of me. Mm-hmm. I can walk in there and be afraid. I don't, you know, I'm in these fancy houses and rooms and, you know, going, like people who leave their purses on airplanes because like it's like their car, yeah. You know, like, and it's different, you know, it's different from what I've seen, right? I was born in Nigeria. I grew up there. I'm familiar with poverty. Yeah. And so, you know, you're in different environments and you have to be yourself authentically. Otherwise, like you can't serve your purpose. And what I would say, you know, if I could just speak to people who are in this position is allow people to be their authentic selves. Wouldn't that be so much better? Yeah. Right? Wouldn't that be so much better? Right? Open yourself up to different perspectives so that you can actually learn and grow. Mm-hmm. Disruption, change, it comes from the outside. It always has. It always will. And so, you know, people who think of themselves as capital allocators or people who are trying to capture lightning in a bottle, right, but like will only do so amongst their friends, it's kind of silly, you know? And so what I think, you know, our fundraising, our round, everything should have happened much faster, right? Revenue for revenue, product for product. You know, over-indexed on everything, right? But it's also just getting people to believe.
Yeah.
And one of the toughest issues that we're going to have to solve here is we need like 1,000 Josephs, because then I won't be so rare that at the moment when somebody's about to do, they're like, you know, people are pattern driven.
Yeah.
And, you know, we have a real opportunity here. I mean, there's lots of ways to call it, bias, pattern driven, whatever, right? But we have an opportunity to disrupt familiar narratives for more promising ones. Yeah. And so, you know, that has been my joy and my challenge, you know, going on this journey.
Got it. Thank you. And Jessica, I'm going to pass the ball to you as you're navigating this this world, and there's a bunch of adults here that are making decisions, right, about how other individuals like you experience the industry, experience any industry. Can you talk about some of the just frustrations that you've seen and barriers that you've seen, and what can we learn? Like, if you could, well, you do have a mic. Tell us what we need to be doing better.
Can you hear me? Okay, making sure. Oh, sorry. Okay, I want to go off of what Joseph was saying. I have so many experiences where I was the only person that looked like me. Only person. I was the first Black trading associate intern at Peak 6. That happened this summer. This program has been going on for 7 years. So it's a little heartbreaking, but also a little more eye-opening that someone like me can be out there and they have more experience, they have more talent, and they can't even get into the room. So I think that is the most frustrating part of it all. I think that's really all I have to say.
Thank you, Jessica. RL, can you share a little bit, when you and I chatted, we talked about how, you know, outside of career and all of these different things that, you know, you have a really supportive family that supported your career and helped you get where you are. So can you talk just about like the importance of support systems and ways that we can infiltrate that both internally in our firms as well as externally as we're walking in community with one another?
Yeah, sure. I hail from India. I guess that's not a big, what do I say? Surprise, yeah. I grew up in a very, very middle class, lower middle class kind of a family. And from an opportunities point of view, like she said, my parents focused only on education. I mean, they actually told us as in me and my brothers, that the only wealth we can give you is education. We do not have money to give you, but we'll send you to school. And that's all. That was what my parents gave us. And coming from there, I can tell you, support system from right from my childhood, like the focus was in the right place. We studied, and when I got married, and in my career, I've lived and worked in 6 countries, Dubai, London, Rome, Singapore, and now in the US. I've been here in the US for 7 years, Dallas for 1.5. Before that, I was in California and the Bay Area. So, and all through my life, my working life, my wife has been with me. She's as qualified as I am, and she could have chosen a career like mine if she wanted to, but she gave up her career, and she actually moved with my 2 children to all these 6 countries. So my kids are global citizens. I carry a little bit of guilt also about it because they do not have childhood friends. They make good friends 3-4 years, I leave the place and go to another place. So they don't have any childhood friends, and I carry a little bit of guilt, and when I tell my kids this, they say, but Dad, we're global citizens. I mean, we've seen cultures, we understand a lot more, so it's good. So there has been a give and take, that it has been a trade-off, but if I didn't have this family, and right from my childhood all the way till today, I could not have done the things that I have been able to do. I put up my hand for all these opportunities that came up. They were challenges. I mean, I was willing to go to these unknown places and make a name or whatever, create my own identity there, try to get integrated and all of that. But that couldn't have happened if my home front was not solid and very supportive.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So as we wrap up this panel, I would love to leave those of you, especially those of you that are in position of power, with some words of advice from my magnificent panel here. As you think about the conversation that we've had and navigating some of these barriers and opportunities, what advice would you give if you could ask this question to Jessica, but I'm going to pose it to everyone else. What advice would you give to the individuals in this room as they're navigating their own power structures?
So I just want to start off with the word empathy. We don't know what everyone goes through. We assume. So if you can provide a little bit of empathy for anyone that comes into your room and you don't know, I think that it helps a world more than just saying yes or just saying no.
You know what, Tony, you taught me something a couple years back. People might not know this about me. There was a time when I was like this close to being a Catholic priest. But my dad knew better than me. I like women, and I'm married now. Kid, I couldn't have done it, But you told me that power is good. It's not bad. You don't have to run from it. You can use it. And that was maybe 6 years ago. And you said it in passing, but it stuck in my head because I've always thought of power the same way. Like I work in money and I still think it's evil, but but I also know its potential for good. And I've used what was a very small sphere of influence and small little power to help so many people. I think globally I employ like 100 people. And I couldn't even employ myself, I couldn't and that came from learning where my power was, how I could use it to help myself, how I could use it to help others, and it has come back to me every time in tenfold. There are people in this room that have access to power, and that means they have the raw fuel for change. Like I would advise them to remember that, right? And in moments, it doesn't take much to be a superhero. It doesn't take much at all.
I think, I see Jessica being very emotional about her own experiences, and I think, the one thing that I would say is we all have biases, right? No matter what color you are. And I mean, he grew up in Nigeria. I don't know what he does there, but I grew up in Ghana, so you understand what I mean by that. But and maybe same thing with India, there are biases against ourselves, right? And just a little example here, in Ghana, I can walk into the bank and looking like this, maybe in a pair of shorts and a t-shirt, or maybe dressed up in a suit, and a white man can walk in with a pair of shorts looking more raggedy than I am, and the Ghanaian teller would serve them in advance of me, right? Because that's the bias. It's not that, those are my people. They're not being racist, right? They just trained to think of the white person as better than me, right? At the end of the day, we all have biases. And I think it's important that we, as much as we can, try to be aware of the biases that we have and turn them off. And when Joseph walks in to you, I think he struggled with raising money from black people just as much as white people, right? More, exactly. So it's not, that statistic of 1% is not a white people statistic, it's a black people statistic, it's an Indian statistic. It's, because there is a bias out there that black people are not good entrepreneurs or whatever it is, which is not true, right? And it's important that we try to attune and turn off those biases. I think I was telling Michelle this, I think it was the Philly Symphony, for years when they were auditioning people who play the violin and who play the cello, would get them on stage, look at them, and for some reason, women were always eliminated. And then they started putting a screen in front of the people who were auditioning, and suddenly, you had like a 400% uptick in the women who were, part of the symphony, because they weren't seeing the people, they were hearing the music. In the same way, as Joseph said, with your power, wherever you are, try not to see people and see the work, see what's behind them. Try and close your eyes to who you see. It's very hard. Close your eyes to who you see and look at the work, look at the products, hear them through what you see. And I think for me, that is how we can get around a lot of the issues that we face today.
Wow. Wow, yeah, that was really good. Okay, thankfully I had 2 points to talk about because he stole my first one. I was going to say being aware of our subconscious or unconscious biases is I think, the first step, and all of us have the power to do that. I mean, I'm not going to belabor that point anymore. But the other one that I wanted to say is change is inevitable, right? We all know it. And I would always stand on the side of embracing change voluntarily than being forced upon us. Right? When change is forced upon us, it's going to be bitter. It's going to be bitter for all of us. It's eventually going to happen. Why not enjoy that journey? Right?
Thank you. Can you give this beautiful panel a hand? Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. I don't know this guy you're going to hear from next. I'm sorry for whatever he has to say. I'm teasing. Thank you so much for your time.